welcome everybody. This is a Discover ISU webinar Zoom call to talk about the MSS program that's coming up, MSS 24. We have people still coming in from the waiting room and we'll let them in as they come in. But I want to say welcome. My name is Ken Davidian. I'm here with Professor Virginia Wotring. We're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming MSS program after we give you a little bit of a background about ISU. And after we give you this overview, then what we'll do is we'll take your questions. And no question is too small or too large for us to handle. We will absolutely welcome all questions, try to answer them here. And if we can't, we'll answer them offline and we'll get going. So let's go to the next slide and we'll start our story, which starts out like any good story that says, once upon a time. ISU began in 1987 with the three founders here, Todd Hawley, Bob Richards, and Peter Diamandis. At that time, they had worked with science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke to become the first chancellor of ISU in 1987. The first main gathering of ISU participants was at the founding conference in 1987, where the overall concept of ISU was discussed and future plans for ISU were discussed. And the people who attended were leaders in the national space programs, which they went back to their agencies and to their companies, and they all started contributing to ISU. Let's go to the next slide. ISU, like I said, was founded in 1987. It was in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Basically, MIT is where all this got started. A bunch of what now are called the space study programs were held in 1988, 89, 90, 91, and then in 1992, there was a global competition to have a permanent campus. And there were three main cities that were competing, and the site that was chosen was in Strasbourg, France. So we're going to show you some pictures of Strasbourg in a little bit later, but the whole goal and intent of ISU was to develop future world space community leaders. These were people who were intended to rise, were promising potential future managers within the companies and space agencies. It was hoped that they would rise through their management ranks and then provide leadership and a network of leaders in the space community that would hold the ISU ideals of international, interdisciplinary, and intercultural content and relationships, and all for the benefit of all humanity, which is a great aspect, I think, of the ISU credo. So at any time in the future, or while you're watching this video, why don't you pop over to www.isunet.edu, and you can find out more about the program. So today we're going to talk specifically about one program. I will mention that, like I said, the plans were to have this network of alumni. Next slide. And have this network of alumni that would be global and would cover all the different disciplines of space activities. And so as you can see here in this chart, that there are over 5,400 ISU alumni since 1987 when the program was, or the university was started. And we've got major geographic coverage. There's obvious geographic holes in the continent of Africa right now. But we're always working to improve that. But the point is that a lot of the alumni from the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s have now been rising through the ranks of their companies and their space agencies. And it's amazing where you'll find ISU alumni now. And this network really is a powerful tool. Next slide. As I mentioned, there are a number of programs that ISU offers. And the longest duration one is called the Master of Space Studies, and that's the one we're going to talk about here in a minute. But before we do that, let me just walk through this list. The program that started in 1988 and has continued since then is called the Space Studies Program. Formerly, it was called the Summer Session Program. It typically is on the order of 2 months in duration, and it changes location every year. So if you saw a chart that we have, it's gone to many, many countries over the years, hopping between Europe and Asia, and it's even been in South America. In fact, it's going to be in South America this year, in São José dos Campos in Brazil. We do have a Southern Hemisphere Space Studies program that started a number of years ago, and that's a 5-week program that's held in Adelaide, Australia every year in the February timeframe, Southern Hemisphere's summertime. And we do have shorter 1 week executive space courses that are held from time to time. And in fact, there's a executive space course coming up very soon. And again, you can get information about all these courses, included potential scholarship opportunities, from the ISU website, www.isunet.edu. But today we're going to focus on the Master of Space Studies program, which has gone through some revisions lately. It's been improvement. It's anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years long. And to tell you more about that, I will let Dr. Wotring take it from here. Virginia.
Thanks so much, Ken. And it's a pleasure to be working with you on this. So I don't know if Ken actually mentioned, he is the Vice President of the North American Office of International Space University. And you may be able to tell that I also sound like I'm from the US. I am, but I am now a full-time faculty member here at Central Campus at ISU in beautiful Strasbourg. So I want to tell you about this program, this Masters of Space Studies that we're talking about is meant for people who want an additional academic degree, really serious, rigorous study in the space kind of world. Now, I'm saying space, I'm not saying engineering or any particular topic area, because we cover all the topic areas. There's space policy and law and economics and business and management. There's space applications and Earth observation. There's human performance in space and space biology, like I teach here. All this range of academic pursuit comes in under the umbrella of the entire program. What we offer here is support for people who want to get into a space-oriented career, no matter what their prior training. And our graduates tend to wind up pursuing space careers in the space agencies of the world, in big space businesses, in their own space startups, in universities all over the world. Our graduates go out and do everything in every area. This program has really been useful for students who come in wanting to make a bit of a career change. We have a fair number of our students who are older, who have some experience in the workforce and decide they want to make a little change. And they come to us through this website that's on this page. Next slide, please. So the Central Campus in Strasbourg is here. We have a lovely big building, and it's undergoing some renovation now, so it's just getting better at the moment. And it's in beautiful Strasbourg, France. So if you're not familiar with Strasbourg, it's in the northeast corner of France. It's very close to the German border. In fact, you can bicycle across the German border, and sometimes I do on the weekends. It's a really nice ride. If you look at this picture, Strasbourg has portions of it that are just the epitome of a charming European city. So for those of us from North America, it is such a delight to live here. It's really a wonderful experience, I think, for our students to come spend a year or so in this environment. Next. So the reason that we're talking to you today is because we have just been through an exhaustive effort that took us more than a year to do. All the faculty and a lot of the staff of ISU have been working on this. We have completely updated the master's curriculum. We have been through every course, every lecture, every workshop, every assignment, everything we do, making sure that we are up to date with all the recent developments in space operations, in space businesses, in exploration, in all the new kinds of missions that are about to happen, in all of the new launch providers. Everything's been updated. And we've been working very closely with some of the employers that our students go to as we've been through this effort. The idea being to give our students the best possible training to compete for jobs in the marketplace. Let me tell you a little bit about the structure of this master's program. It's basically 3 semesters, so it's relatively rapid. And in the first semester, we'll spend some time getting everyone up to speed with a module called Fundamentals. Since every student coming into ISU will have some previous training, whether it's in engineering or law or whatever, they will be already kind of an expert in one area that we'll go deeper on in the rest of the program, but they may be pretty naive in a few other areas. So this fundamentals module is meant for students to spend a few weeks, about 4 weeks, learning more in a topic area where they don't know much, to get up to speed with their peers who might be walking in with a bachelor's degree in those areas. So those are fundamentals. Then we move into our second module, which is truly interdisciplinary. So in this module, the faculty are going to be working together to provide courses that matter to all of our students, and they cover all the areas that I previously mentioned. We've got a lot of cross-cutting kinds of workshops, interdisciplinary workshops here that are fun. And after we've gotten our core studies out of the way in semester 1, in the second semester, we go deeper. So this is where it really gets to the graduate school kind of content level. And we'll ask you each to choose a track, whether it be space engineering and applications, or space science and exploration, or space policy and entrepreneurship. You get to choose your track, where you want to focus, what you want to learn most about. That will be followed by an opportunity for your internship. And these internships are chosen by the students, and in fact, may be developed by the students working with externals. They last from 3 to 6 months, depending on the host company. It lets you go to a company or a space agency or an academic laboratory to learn more about what it's like working in that area or with that particular company or space agency. Next. So to give you a little bit better idea of the particular tracks, I've listed for you some of the courses that we have inside each one of the tracks. So in engineering and applications, we talk not only about engineering, how to build the rockets, the launch vehicles, how to build the spacecraft or the satellites. We also spend some time on observing Earth, one of the main uses of space right now. Earth observation, navigation, telecommunication. We have a really strong department in this area. We have an expert in developing CubeSats right here on our academic staff, and he leads an advanced studies course in this area. We have another expert in remote sensing, data analysis, who'll be joining us for this track. In space science and exploration, this is the track that I teach in. We'll be looking at astrophysics, planetary science, and robotic exploration. We'll be looking at humans in space, how they behave, how they work, how well they perform, risks to human health in the space environment. And we have some advanced studies in this track too. In my specialty area, we look at pharmacology in the space environment. My colleagues teach an astrobiology course. So if you are looking for life or signs of life on other planets or planetary-like bodies, how do you do that? It's super cool. In space policy and entrepreneurship, our colleagues there teach policy and law and business and management, as well as economics and entrepreneurship, which may be one of the most exciting areas for a lot of you who want to learn how to start a small business. And along those lines, we have an advanced studies course in preparing a business plan, a space business plan, and another one in arbitration, which is really important in negotiations and reaching international agreements. Next slide. Now, these advanced studies courses I described to you, they're actually coming up right now in this year's master's. And in fact, we have openings available in this year's classes for those. So if you would like to take a 2-week intensive course in space sustainability, or the new space entrepreneurship topic that I just described, or astrobiology, or omics, genomics, proteomics, metabolomics in space, you can go ahead and do that now. These start in April of this year. Next. These are our faculty, and you can learn more about all of us on the ISU website. We have videos and web pages there you can look at to learn about what each of us do, what each of us teach, the research that we do, and some things about our publications. They're all here. Here's a few of our facilities. We have a couple different kinds of telescopes that can be used for student projects here, and they will be used definitely in some workshops and those advanced studies course. We have a concurrent design facility and a computer laboratory that we use for a number of our workshops. The Space Life Sciences Laboratory is something I've just been working on building, so I have some of my own research going there. We have a space environment in one of our big rooms. It's called the SHE. It's the bottom right picture here. It's actually been designed by some space architects who work with us on a pretty frequent basis. It's meant to be a habitat for a couple of people, and this could be used on the moon or Mars or someplace that we land. And it is also available for student projects. In fact, there are 2 projects going on in there right now. Next. We also have on site the ISU incubator. So I mentioned that we have some course activities that are aimed at helping you develop your small business or your ideas for your small business. We have right here in the building an actual incubator facility. So we can, if you are selected to join this incubator, you will get some coaching and help getting your business off the ground. Next. There is funding and scholarships available for some students. It is based on professional merit, academic merit, and from people who are members of these organizations on this list, you may be able to get additional support. We have an expert on staff to help you with this. If you go to this website, you can get connected there, and our colleague will help you out. So we want to encourage you to go to ISU's website and apply. If you just go to isunet.edu, that's our homepage. If you scroll down, so if you go to the top where it says admissions and click on that little button where it says admissions, you'll come to this page. If you scroll down, you get to the master's program. All of our programs are there, and you might want to check them out. But the master's is here. We have a deadline coming up pretty soon. If you do need financial aid. If you don't need financial aid, there's a longer window for applications. But don't let this stop you. Please get in touch with our colleagues at admissions who can help you out with these things. And I do want to point out to you that this master's is approved for U.S. student financial aid. So if you're coming from the States, these the typical grants and scholarships that you're used to seeing or applying for, they're available to you. We've had quite a number of our students from the States take advantage of those. You can learn more on our webpage. You can learn more at all of these social media sites as well. We frequently post things from what our students have been doing or what we're about to do. Right here, and look for our YouTube channel, because there are videos of lots of ISU's past activities there. You can get a real feel for what the students are doing and what the ISU community is like. I think that's especially easy to see on the social media. The network of those 5,000 people that Ken mentioned, they really do stay in touch with each other and they help each other out. You'll see that on the social media, and it can be a really powerful tool when you are taking the next step in your careers. Ken, what have I forgotten to say?
I don't think you've forgotten very much. I'll point out that QR code right there takes you to a landing page, which will go through all the programs, provide easy buttons to find out more information about all the programs. In fact, then it'll continue on. There are links there that'll take you to a page that have. You didn't mention anything about team projects. There are individual projects, I'll say.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
And why don't you say a couple words about that? Because some of the links point to all the past team projects, which there's like 4 or 5 dozen of them. But why don't you mention something about team projects and individual?
Yeah, so my mistake. Thanks for catching it. So the new master's program will have a team project, which is really unchanged because it's so awesome. For the master's, the team project starts at the end of the first semester and it will continue all the way through the second semester. What happens is we'll split the class up into groups of about 20 people, and we'll give each group an idea, a starting place. And then it's going to be up to your team to carry that idea through to a full report, an analysis of every possible aspect of this thing. And let me give you a couple of examples. So right now I'm working with our team who's working on commercial space stations. How do you make a space station that is not dependent on government support, but it could support itself financially? How would you do that? So we've got, actually at the end of this hall, right down the hall here, we've got a group of 20 students working on this idea right now. They're analyzing all the possible kinds of ways you could sell spaceflight to different people, whether they want to film a movie or conduct some research or launch their own satellites or be a tourist or whatever. They're analyzing the business cases for each of these ideas and figuring out how to market it and plotting out how much money could be made and what timeframes, and analyzing the marketplace for each of ideas, all of this. We've got another one at that hallway down that end where the team is looking at Venus, and are there actually signs of previous life present in the atmosphere? How do we look for that? How do we measure it? And again, everyone in the team is bringing their previous professional background to bear for the benefit of the team. So the business people are looking at how to finance the projects. The management people are looking at management tracking and getting international harmonization and participation in this. The science people have some really hard questions to answer, getting vehicles and landers to survive the bizarre atmosphere of Venus. There's huge challenges there. So these team projects, they're big. They're way too much for any particular student to do on their own, but our students work on them together, and they learn a lot about how you work on that kind of a big project together, which is, I think, in itself a huge lesson. And from my experience, I used to work at Johnson Space Center. From my experience professionally, everything we did there was like this. You wound up with big teams working on a project, and those teams were made up of people from different countries, from different backgrounds, with different educational experiences, with different aims even that they needed to accomplish. So I think our team project is a really good preparation for the real professional space world. Thanks for reminding me, Ken.
No, that's great. And, as you were speaking about that, when you're talking about commercial space stations, of course, to me, if you're going to have commercial space station, that means it's got to have a bar, right? I mean, so this is something I think that'll distinguish it from any kind of government created space station. But I think that's a really important thing. And so, like I said, we've got, and I don't know how long we're going to keep this slide up, but we've got that QR code. So if you haven't scanned it yet, I would say scan it. And you can start going down through, because you'll find links to all the TPs, all the programs. I try to keep the information updated there. We're going to ultimately put a link to the recording of this webinar there, so people can find it and watch it as well. But if you keep scrolling down, it's got links to like photo galleries and, like I said, past TPs and a whole bunch of stuff, as well as a link almost everywhere taking you to the admissions page so you can submit questions or try to apply. We'll get through the issues that Faith has found with us, but it's really, we're trying to reach out to folks and really make it easy as possible to provide information, give you an idea of what the programs are like, and to welcome you into the university. I think we might be ready for some questions. What do you think, Virginia?
Absolutely.
Okay. So how do you want to deal with that? Oh, overlords that are running this webinar, do you want people to just submit things in chat, or should we let folks unmute and talk?
So I'm looking at the chat. I see one question from Faith asking about PhD opportunities. So Faith, we don't offer those right now, but what we can do is, if you're interested in going that route, most of our faculty members would be happy to co-mentor a PhD project. So if you want to do a space-related project that maybe your main mentor doesn't know so much about the space part, we can work with people and co-mentor them. This is pretty simple to arrange. So we could talk about that.
That's great. I was also going to mention that we recently announced a partnership between International Space University and New Space Journal, which is a Marianne Liebert publication. And this is a journal which is going to have the ISU logo and mention in it. And we're going to try to encourage students to submit papers to New Space so it can go through the peer review process and be published. So this is a nice way to take your individual project, your team project, and then get a peer-reviewed publication out of that through New Space, who, like I said, is in partnership with ISU. And one of the benefits of being an ISU student is that every single ISU student will get open, free access to all the content in New Space while you're with us at ISU.
And that's awesome.
That's very cool. I'm trying to see if there's other questions here.
There's one from a space architect or a want-to-be space architect. We've had so much interest from the architecture community lately. Last year's master's class was 20% architects. You know, it was just amazing. So we're used to architecture students coming into our program. There's a whole lot to be done here. It's really amazing the number of potential opportunities here. So don't hesitate to apply if your background is in architecture. We can definitely work with you.
I saw a question here from Muhammad asking, do applicants need a STEM background? And the answer is no, not necessarily. I mean, STEM, of course, stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And as Virginia mentioned, we have multiple, what used to be called departments here at ISU, including space policy and law, business and management, satellite applications, human performance in space. We've got life sciences, or that was life sciences, physical sciences, and I'm probably missing a few here, but we really take everybody from every aspect of the space sector, and we try to bring everybody up to speed. So when I participated in ISU in 1989 in SSP, I was an engineer, boom. But boy, did I learn a lot about space law and space business and a bunch of other things that I knew nothing about at the time. And that's really the benefit. It takes the blinders from, you're going deep into your study, and it opens up the world of space too. So now you can speak semi-intelligently to folks even outside your discipline. And that's really helpful when it comes to becoming a manager.
It's helpful when it comes to everything, isn't it, Ken? So
yeah, I think so.
This is, I think, one of the advantages of ISU's program is that we give people enough background in areas where they're not an expert to where they can talk to people in those other areas. And just that is hugely useful.
Hey, Virginia.
Okay, I'm going to.
Yeah, take this aerospace medicine question.
Yeah, so Andrea, I'm glad to see your question about aerospace medicine, and there was another one about physiotherapy. So anything medically oriented falls under my area, which is in the track for space science and exploration, since it's humans who do the exploration. So all of that is baked into that part of the program. And every master's class, we have a few physicians, maybe a nurse or a biochemist or some other kinds of life scientists participate in the program. There are lots of opportunities for internships in these areas too. So that's definitely complete your application and get in communication with us.
We only have a minute or so left, so we should bang out some of these questions pretty quickly. And let me take one, and then Virginia, you take one. I was going to take the one saying, how soon after the MSS do graduates find their first space job? I will say, Juan, hello, number one. Number two, I'm not sure exactly how fast it is, but number three, I think a lot of them do end up being successfully able to get into the space jobs, but a lot of them create their own space jobs by starting businesses. Virginia, anything you can add to that?
Yeah, so I happen to know a statistic on this. Okay. Within 15 months from graduation, about 85% of our MSS graduates have a job in the space sector. So I think that's really powerful.
And I will tell you that right now is a really good time to get a job in the space sector. So do not delay. Let me talk to the question quickly about, are there any plans for ISU courses in the Indian subcontinent? I don't know what you might define as a plan, but yeah, we've been talking about it. Yeah, we've been thinking about it. And it's probably closer than I think, but yes, the answer is yeah, at least a little bit. How often is the MSS offered? They're annual classes, annually used.
It's every year.
Every year. So we want you to jump on the bandwagon as soon as you can. So that's good. And lawyers, Faith asked about lawyers. Of course, space policy and law is part of the track, and we have space lawyers.
We have lawyers in the class every year.
Yep, absolutely. So, and a lot of folks that have space lawyers that have come through our organization have, again, risen up through the ranks. I mean, Fred Nordland, another SSP 89er, he's kind of at the top of his field in ESA right now in Space International and Policy. So, absolutely. Listen, we're at 9:31. We're at our 31-minute point.
All right, then.
We've got a lot of questions, but
for those of you who know us individually, it might seem difficult to get me and Ken to stop talking sometimes, but I think we're going to have to. This won't be the only chance that you get to learn about ISU. Stay tuned, look at our website, look at these socials, and get in touch if you want to know more, okay?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody stopping in.